welcome back to the channel. This video is actually really exciting because we are sharing a webinar that I did last week. Now, because I'm teaching you a webinar, there are no CEU codes given on this actual video, but if you want a certificate of completion so that way you can submit it for recertification, don't worry, I've got you covered. Just click the link below and you can register and watch the webinar until May 22nd. That's also when this video will come down. Now, I want to let you know that this is a really engaging workshop, so you can also find the workshop workbook down below as well. I highly suggest that you either print it out or you just take notes on it so that way you can begin to implement these ideas so that way you can impact your learners' lives even faster. Right now, even though we're in May, is the time to become a better teacher long before the school year starts, long before your brain shuts down for summer. All right, I won't take up any more of your time. Let's just get to the show. Hi, welcome to 21st Century Success. These are the 4 pillars of visual impairment education. I am so glad that you're taking the time out of your day to spend with me and to learn and to grow. I really hope that this presentation does you and your expertise and what you want to get out of it justice. By the end of this jam-packed training, you will have unlocked 4 scientific, exact strategies that instantly increase the academic and daily living skills of your students with visual impairments, even if you only have a few weeks left in the year, but especially if you're going to continue working with students with visual impairments. This group is chatty and I love it. I'm going to have you continue talking to me. We are going to be using the workbook that was emailed to you, but if not, you can also use just pieces of paper. We are actually doing some work today. If we don't have that much time for you to do the actual work, take a screenshot of the slide and then do the work later, or pass it on to your teachers if it's their work to be doing. Because one thing that you're going to quickly notice is that all of these strategies are science-backed and they come from my 17 years of knowledge as well. So not all of them have been studied, but they work. They're easy to implement. I want to make sure that we are imparting information to you that doesn't take that many resources and doesn't take that much time, especially at the end of the year. And it's for all types of students with visual impairments, because it doesn't matter how much experience you have or how few students that you have, you deserve to be the absolute best. And yes, at the very, very end, after the ending CEU code is given, I'm going to share with you our new program. We're going to walk through the modules to see what's inside. And I do hope that you take that next step and join us inside that program, because it will be life-changing for you and all of the teachers that you work with. But just as you will have seen just a few quick tips work, we will end up diving so much deeper into it in the full program. But today we're not gonna have time to dive as far deep as I want to go, but I really hope that what you take from these 60 minutes will help you to 10x your student skills. So let's get a good feel for the room today. What is your job position? There's going to be a little bit of a lag between what I ask and what Zoom shares. So if I keep moving on, I still want you to talk to me. I'd love to know what your job position is. And then the next question will be, what challenges are you facing when you're working with students with visual impairments? We've got lots of TVIs, comms, good, good, good. Okay, perfect. An SLP and related service facilitator. Lovely, Nicole. Nice to meet you. Anna, we've got lots of TVI comms, SPED resource teacher. Perfect. So we have a good mix of what I'm going to call experts, which are the TVIs and the O&Ms who've gone to school for 5 years to learn what I'm boiling down into 60 minutes, and what I'm going to call our educators. You guys are the people that I made this presentation for, and these 60 minutes will open your eyes to just a little bit of what the experts know, so that way we can help to bridge that gap. We've got classroom teacher of instruction and accommodations and modifications. I'm so glad that you guys are here. We've got a teacher quality specialist. That sounds so cool. So some of the challenges that you guys are facing are getting the student in a quiet and alert state. Okay, Jennifer, I've got you covered there. I'm gonna share with you like one tiny thing, but if that if your question doesn't get answered today, send us an email. I've got some other ideas for you. Team carryover of skills throughout the day. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. Perfect, perfect. This is so good. Consistency of vision accommodations being used, consistency with environments at the school. Love it. Okay. It kind of seems like we're all seeing the same things. The experts and the educators really want to work together. And I've been seeing that exact same situation. So if you are an educator, maybe you're dealing with not knowing how to handle students with visual impairments, or maybe your students are missing out on service time, or maybe you're even seeing unwanted behaviors. I'll have you guys put a one in the chat if you're being really shy and you just want to put a one if you've noticed any of those. Yeah, you've noticed those? Okay, same. Because I know how frustrating it can be on both sides when you feel overwhelmed trying to figure out how to keep your student engaged. Like on my end, when I walk into a class and that student isn't engaged in their education, and I'm like, well, it's not my class. And I still have to figure out how to help the teacher. Watching your learners sit on the sidelines, which happens very often because they couldn't get their lessons adapted in time. All educators, not just TVIs and O&Ms, have to adapt lessons on the fly. But the Brailleist might be like 2 hours away or might be on contract. And so having to get that to work together can be really tricky. And it's really nobody's fault that this happens. It's just, I hate to say it kind of is how it is, but classroom teachers have to pivot when they see the lesson is going downhill, just like when you're working one-on-one with a student. But all of us want to be a better teacher, and sometimes we don't know how, which is why we do things like this, like coming to professional development opportunities. All of our students deserve to be engaged in all of their education. We deserve to feel like we have the confidence, we have the skills to be able to do that for them. I like to think of the expanded core curriculum, which we're going to go into in a little bit. And I use the expanded core, but I do it in a 21st century manner. So the expanded core, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is great. But when we're looking at education right now, we need to make sure that everything that we're doing prepares students for a job and a world that literally doesn't exist yet. I have friends now who are AI trainers. That job did not exist a year ago. And that's just one example of we have to really be looking on the forefront, but we're all kind of just out there winging it. It's not like the industrial age anymore. So 21st century ECC strategies really do become the Rosetta Stone to help our educators figure out, okay, these are all their needs, right? But I don't speak that language. How can I speak that language and access and unlock their needs so that I can show up more confidently? Tracy, who's a TA, said that she enjoyed the hints, advice, and technical skills that were offered through the course. And what she didn't say actually is that because she practiced using 21st century ECC strategies, she got better and she became a much better TA. There are three really super important things I want you guys to take note of before we dive into the meat of our conversation today. And the first one is that if you're working with students with visual impairments, or you will have any in the future, incorporating the ECC into your teaching isn't just like best practice, but it is essential. I could rename the ECC as the essential core curriculum, especially as I dive more and more into how to help my teachers, because if we can get these skills integrated into their lives, our students will be successful as long as they actually try. Because you really can't find a person with a visual impairment who doesn't have these skills and doesn't generalize them. If you've worked with students with visual impairments for a long time, like many of you guys have, you're going to see that what I'm sharing are not just generic strategies, but they are 21st century strategies built upon 17 years of experience, both working at a residential school where all of the teachers were TVIs, the music teacher, the science teacher, the math teacher, the English teacher, all of them were TVIs, to now I'm contract. And sometimes they don't tell me that a student even has a TBI, and I just have to like seek them out and find that person because legally they have to have one, right? But So now I've worked in two different worlds, really. And the other thing that I want you to know is that we're not just learning what each strategy is. What I want you to do is actually use a pen and paper to see how you can implement these strategies. And I want you to take time, a little bit of time right after this, and set aside time on your schedule, maybe for next week, so that way you can actually start to implement what we are going to do. And I'm going to give you exact words, I'm going to give you exact phrases that I use with my teachers because I know what it's like to go from being overwhelmed. There's a picture of me, my first year teaching at a guide dog school, and I was under blindfold using a guide dog crossing the street. My head is turned a little bit to the left because I'm listening and my first year as an orientation and mobility specialist, actually, when I was in college, my first day, let's go back a little bit more. I literally sat down for all 4 hours of my class. And this was after going through my TBI program. I was already in the advanced O&M program and I just sat down. I was so overwhelmed. But that feeling of overwhelmed didn't stop even after I became quote unquote the expert, because then I was looked to as the person who had all the answers. And I was like, you guys, I don't have the answers. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still having a really hard time with this. But after many years of being an educator, having people with visual impairments in my life, and through work, I had more people with visual impairments in my life than sighted people in my life, which was a really great opportunity for me to actually be able to put the perspective of my students within my body. And granted, it's not like I don't have a visual impairment, so I'm not going to pretend like I know everything, but I have a really solid understanding of how to take what their needs are and to simplify it in ways that actually is accessible to other teachers. And that's what I get to do now as the founder of the Society of Exceptional Educators. I'm so glad that there are new people and veterans in the room because our veterans can vouch for the fact that you showed up to a program that wasn't even built for you. Let's be honest. It is Friday afternoon, it is the middle of the workday, and you could be doing anything else, but you're here with us. And I think that's because you value not only your professional development, but how we at the society provide that professional development and how we support you. And it's all about taking these complex strategies and pedagogy and distilling it down into what actually matters. Before we get into how to implement these strategies and what the framework is, I have to lay a little bit of a foundation of what the expanded core curriculum is. The Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired says that the expanded core curriculum is a framework of specialized skills and knowledge designed for students who are blind or visually impaired, supplementing the general education curriculum to address their unique needs and ensure that they develop the skills necessary for independence and success. There are a few things here that I like to point out. One, it's supplementing the general education curriculum. It's not replacing it. However, when we can integrate it all at the same time, then we're not all like in buckets trying to figure out how to do everything separately. And the skills necessary for independence and success. It doesn't say the skills necessary for academic success. It says the skills necessary for independence and success. And I think that that's really important to know. Robin Keating Clark taught me this very simplified way of looking at the expanded core curriculum. And I swear my teachers use this so much more than like memorizing 9 areas, because it's not up to my teachers, my classroom teachers, or my other related service members to memorize the 9 areas. I can not memorize them if you ask me off the top of my head, if I'm 100% honest with you. And we do this in the field. We often do this. We ask each other, and I fail. But what I can do is understand how to put them into someone's, how can you find the ECC? You could just Google it. But what we're going to work on today, Ton, is how to take this and put it into the classroom. So if you're a TVI, you'll get that in your university program. But if you are a teacher, then these 9 areas don't necessarily matter as much as how you can integrate the 9 areas into what you are doing. So what Robin teaches is that we've got basically three pillars, three columns. We've got the column of access, and then under that is compensatory skills. That's going to be your braille. sensory efficiency. It's going to be how to use your vision to access your environment, assistive technology. And then in the second column, we've got independent living, daily living skills, rec and leisure, and social skills. In the third column, we've got community readiness, orientation and mobility, and then self-determination. Self-determination is within all of these 9 areas and with all of the 3 columns. But I believe she puts it here because community readiness is really all about being able to access things within the community and be a good citizen. And you'll start to notice that when you begin to incorporate 21st century ECC strategies into your lessons, your learners can finally go from sitting on the sidelines without accessible lessons to academic achievement, from learned helplessness to moving around their environments, from unwanted behaviors that disrupt their class to happily engaged in your lessons. So why does this matter? It matters because vision is responsible for 90% of our learning. Now, if you are an expert in the room, you have a really good understanding of that. But for those of you guys who are new to vision and are learning about it, I want you to think about just like a child in their class, right? Let's take a kindergarten student. They'll be looking up at the board and they might see A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat. They look down, they go about their business and do their work. Then they look back up, A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. Look back down, go do their work. Every time they look up, that information is reinforced. And so what ends up happening over time is that our students with visual impairments need all of that reinforced information to be taught directly. Now, A for apple, B for ball, C for cat are all academic concepts, but let's just think about like how many times babies watch their mom make lunch and see where the bread comes from, watch their moms do a scooping motion, all of those small things that if you don't have access to that, then it can be really hard to have an understanding of what is expected of yourself and your body and what these concepts are. So we find a lot of concept gaps within our students, which I'm sure you have seen. So I have a student named Karina, and this is obviously not a picture of her. I'm not even using the correct gender, but I'm going to describe my student educationally so you can kind of see how this all fits in. So my student was born at 23.6 weeks and she has CP on the right side of her body, hyper tonality, like cannot move her arm at all past like what, maybe 45 degrees. That includes the mouth muscles, and she also doesn't talk. She makes babbling noises, and she also has cerebral visual impairments. And so when she like looks up, she tries to look up at the board, right? But her body is so hunched over that she's then cranking her neck. And educationally, when I got into the classroom, the teacher, who was super great, didn't know what to do with her. And so we walked through that training and then we trained the TAs. And then what happens? The TAs leave. The TAs get pulled somewhere else. And then we get more TAs. Cool, we train them. And then the TAs get pulled somewhere else. So I found myself having to start over a lot. And when I broke things down finally into 4 specific pillars, and then really at the end of those pillars, you'll be able to ask yourself at any moment in time, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? Yes, okay, good. That means I know that I'm proceeding and I'm reaching my student in the best way possible. So what are these 4 pillars? I'm glad that you asked. The 4 pillars of ECC success, I call them 21st century success. It's a quick framework that you can use at any time. You're welcome to screenshot these. They help to skyrocket the academic and daily living skills of your students with visual impairments. And this is going to be like the vehicle to success here. The first thing as teachers that you want to be doing is interpreting the vision in order to inform instruction. What does that mean? A lot of teachers think that that means like, I read the I report, it says 20/80. I read the I report, it says nystagmus. Okay. But instead of just doing that, like we said, vision is responsible for 90% of our learning. That means 10% of what we know, we learn directly. And that means 12 years, 6 hours a day that we're in school, or 13 years rather, we that's only 10% of what we know, which means there's a whole world of things that our students don't know. And the way to bridge that gap is by taking not just their visual data, but taking everything else into consideration. So that way you can drop into what their perspective is like at any given moment, at any given place in their day. So what I want you to do is take these three things into consideration. Yes, you are going to take their visual data, and I want you to multiply that by their etiology. In the program, we go deep into what does each etiology do and how does it manifest in the body. We don't have time to go through all of that today, but what I want you to do is just look at the eye report, and then you're going to need to research and read about the etiology and figure out how does this manifest? Where does it come from exactly? And then from there, put yourself in the perspective of your student in their exact seat. Now, I'll walk you through some of that in just a little bit when we go through the actual common visual impairments. So one piece of visual data is the acuity. That's the sharpness or acuteness of the vision. The way that we look at that real quick, my experts, this is all stuff that you already know, but I'm going to talk to the educators just in case you don't. This is just one example here. Acuity is normed at a 20/20 scale. And so that just is like 20 feet from yourself to the eye chart. Just kind of how science works, as you probably know, that they just choose an amount and then they run with it. So let's pretend, because obviously I'm tapping on my glasses. Obviously, I don't have 20/20 vision, but let's say I have 20/20 vision and the person next to me has 2200. The 20 at the top stays the same. The 20 on the bottom and then the 200 tells us what each person's visual acuity might be like. My 20 is the normed one, their 20 is the 200. So that's saying that I can see from 200 feet away what they can see from 20. If they have 22,000, I can see from 2,000 feet away what they can see from 20. And so that's why we have a lot of our students like really getting very, very, very close. Because if you break that down to a micro level, it means that they have to get very close to objects in order for them to be clear. There are other considerations that we need to take into account, which would be depth perception, visual fields, time of day, lighting, as well as medical issues as well. Our students with multiple impairments a lot of times also have medical issues that really have to be taken into consideration. Okay, are we still with me? I'm going to go through three common visual impairments in children really, really, really quick, but we're a little bit late. So I want to make sure that we get to the other parts. So cerebral visual impairment is the one that I'll stick on the most. This is actually an epidemic in our worlds right now medically, which I think is so unique and interesting, and I'm so glad that they are learning so much about it. But in this sample size on the right, you'll see just a screenshot of a study that was done, and they identified 78 out of 248 children, which is 31.5% of those examined, had at least one CVI-related vision problem. That's a random sample of people, which we didn't even really know about 10 years ago. Cerebral visual impairments, what you'll often notice is that they have difficulty with vision attention and recognition, also problems with depth perception and hand-eye coordination, visual field loss, and some individuals may experience normal field of vision as well, and variability in vision. It's really hard to understand what their vision is like without a lot of in-depth knowledge here. But one way that I like to look at it is what these students need is time to process the information. And so with every new piece of information they have to process, every period, every ruffle of the bulletin board, everything that you have in your classroom, they have to process that at all times. And so it can get very, very, very blurry for them. So no wonder that they often need breaks to the point where it looks like it's an unwanted behavior and it looks like it's an avoidance behavior. And it is, but it's not out of like malice. It's just simply out of necessity to regulate their nervous system because their brains are working in order to identify what's going on. So super interesting. I asked AI to make a visual representation of what cerebral visual impairment, a person with cerebral visual impairment might see. And from my understanding, this picture hits it. So what we're looking hits it, but I think it could have been actually, they could have gone a lot deeper into it. What we see is like in the center, the student can see it's like kind of clear and they're looking at a classroom, and then all around it's super blurry. I also think about it as like kaleidoscope vision as well. Out of the sake of time, we're going to skip these other ones, but I am going to give you my phone number in just a second because I've shown you not just what to look for, but how to put it all together for pillar one. But if you have questions, it doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter if you decide to join the program. It doesn't matter if it's after May 22nd. I want you to text me at 512-593-1232. That comes directly to my phone, and I will reply during my office hours between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Unless like something goes wrong with my kids, it's the end of the year, you never know what's going to go on with them. But I'll respond during my office hours as soon as I can because I want you to have a solid foundation for what you're actually looking at when you're working with your students. And after we take that visual information, now we have to teach. And so what we want to do is use teaching strategies for non-visual learning. The way that I like to do that is asking myself 3 questions. And this is what I ask my teachers to do. I look at what is the function of the lesson. Then I want them to just look around the room. What 3D materials do you already have on hand that can support the function of that lesson? Like, what are you actually trying to teach? Because it's just kind of like, I don't know if anybody here does yoga. Like, you see like these Instagram yoga people and they look like they're doing it all perfectly, and then you try to do it and it looks much different. But the function is still the same. How my body is going to react to certain things is going to be completely different. So the outside might look different. Or I might do my yoga pose sitting in a chair, where the Instagram model might do her yoga pose, I don't know, on like the little like thing on a yacht or something. It's gonna look different, but the function is still the same. I'm still stretching my back. It is gonna look different. It's allowed to look different for your students, but what is the function of that lesson? And how can you turn that lesson into a routine? I think we overlook the power of routines immensely. If you're a SPED teacher, maybe not as much. But what I see a lot of times when I go into classes is they spend a lot of time on YouTube and a lot of time with random children choosing random videos. And then my student is off to the side, not able to engage. Or they have like circle time, but there's different things happening within circle time every time we go. And that doesn't allow my students to actually dive deep into that academic rigor that the teacher intends. Here's just a quick snapshot of an article that says routines offer powerful opportunities for connection, engagement, and development. They also supports children to learn new skills in safe and familiar settings. And the way that I look at that here is I want to think about when I'm driving down the road and I'm going to a new place. I'm gonna go to a new school, let's say. And I'm looking at my maps and I'm relying on my map to tell me, to prompt me each and every single time I need to make a turn. And I'm still skittish. Like I'm still like have a little fear in my body the first time I do it. Then after a while, I can start doing it maybe without the map. And then eventually I can look up and see, oh, look, there's that gas station. Oh, there's that Old Navy. Oh, look, straight ahead, there's that bookstore. Meanwhile, the gas station, the Old Navy, and the bookstore were always there. It's just that I couldn't access that information. And I'm sure that you have experiences like that as well, where you just couldn't access the information because you hadn't done it enough times. So when we consistently do routines, what typically happens in schools is like the TVR, the O&M says, okay, good, I just learned about routines, you gotta do routines. But we don't have the time to actually sit down with our teachers and break this down with them. Now, there's so much more to go into about routines and how to facilitate them, especially if you are a classroom teacher or if you're an OT or PT, and we have related service members in here. And there's so much that we can be doing within what we're already doing to increase and deepen the academic rigor and then ensure the academic performance and achievement of our students without it being like a big thing. So first and foremost, you're going to pick one routine to start with. Right now it's May. Not asking you to start any new routines. Do not start any new routines. That would be a horrible idea. And then don't do this right now, but if we had more time, for this were like a 2 or 3 hour workshop, I would have you write out the steps of the routine. So this is why I want you to take time, maybe Monday or Tuesday during your planning time, and actually choose one. Write out the steps on each separate line. Then the next time you teach that routine, just make a note. How many times did you prompt that student? And what did that prompting look like? And how can you decrease those prompts? Typically, it's just a matter of like chilling a little bit. You don't need to do things for them. We're just so used to being in a rush. Or if it's a daily living routine and not an academic routine, that's where I notice that teachers are like, okay, I'll turn on the water so you can wash your hands. I'm like, why? You have 2 more seconds. We're okay. It's fine. Nobody has anywhere to go. We can do this. Now, the why is because teachers just don't have that deep scientific understanding of why it matters, because that was ingrained in me and not ingrained in our teachers. And so that's not really their fault at all. It's just, again, a matter of like, we don't have time to do all of the training. And so when we look at incorporating routines, I want to have my teachers then look at where they are over prompting and start to scale it back slowly and be intentional about it. It's the intentionality that brings academic rigor. I'm sorry. So of course, you're going to make requests more complex over time and you're going to scaffold it and eventually add in choices. One of the routines that I think personally is one of the best routines that we can start with is a calendar. Now, again, if your student has no calendar routine, this is somewhere where you talk to your teachers and see if you want to implement it right now. But for in the future, starting next school year, calendar routines are an absolute yes. And here's why. Because the calendar is going to give you that bookend to make the beginning and the ending the same. Scientifically, it's been proven that routines need the beginning and the endings to be the same in order for it to be a solid routine. Routines allow our bodies to relax, but more so, calendars allow our nervous systems, if we know what's going to come up, if we know what's going to happen, it allows our bodies to relax and not be thinking about the future. I don't know if any of you guys have this thing. I bet everybody does, where my brain wants to think about the future and it wants to think about the past, but I have a hard time bringing it into the present, even if I'm doing things like right here. And so our students have that same issue as well. Now, calendar routines are a team effort because you want to make sure that you're setting up the correct calendar routine with the correct medium. And I'm going to teach you how to know what the medium is and where to find that in your students' paperwork. If you're a classroom teacher, it's not necessarily your job to figure out the learning media. The TVI will help you do that, but it is your job to ensure that your student has access to this at all times. And what better way to calm your students' nervous system and increase their literacy, because we know that all words are symbols. And then these right here that you see, this is a calendar box with objects in it. The objects serve as symbols. So it's bringing along that symbolism into, okay, this means this. There's just so much good stuff that happens within calendars that we can't go into right now. And there's so much that happens within making sure that your students are accessing all of their education. We have a TVI on staff who helps with that stuff, and she is absolutely incredible. Okay, are we good here? I think I'm talking real fast. After we get the academic part done, and not even get it done, but as a classroom teacher, as teachers, that's where you're going to start first. And then what we notice is that our students are chilling at Maslow's top part of the pyramid for a while until they have to like go to the bathroom. And then they're down at the bottom and maybe they don't know how to get to the bathroom. And then they have a hard time getting to the bathroom or somebody has to come help them and they lose out on academic minutes. And to be frank, if your student can't get to your classroom, they can't learn from you. And so when we can give our students the confidence to be able to travel around as independently as possible, that only happens one step at a time. But the misconception is that supporting navigation skills is the sole responsibility of the orientation and mobility specialist. And while, yes, we're not expecting anybody else to teach cane skills, to actually teach these skills, or teach street crossings, or teach those high level skills, general ed teachers are with their students 25% of the time. Now, I do see some related service staff in here. You're with your students about 1% of the time. But even just that 1%, you're going to new places and you're often pulling kids out. So it's a ripe opportunity for instruction and learning to generalize their skills. And paraprofessionals are with their students about 27% of the time. Donna Sauerberger came to the International Orientation and Mobility Online Symposium, longest name ever for a conference, but she taught us that the percentage of correct cane use corresponds to the percentage of safety and independence. So if a student only uses their cane correctly 20% of the time as they're walking, then they're only safe 20% of the time. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. But what ends up happening is that the teachers and the student think that 20% cane use, correct cane use, should equal 100% safety. And then everyone's flabbergasted why the kid gets hurt 8 out of 10 times. It's because they only use their cane correctly twice out of those 10 times. And how can we get them to increase how well they use their cane when the O&M specialist is with them 1 hour a week? It's really impossible for you as the related service staff or the classroom teacher to sit in with the expert every single time and stay on top of what that student knows. But if you have an entire curriculum and you have that scientific understanding of how these skills come together and the depth of knowledge of like when to shoreline or why am I looking for a landmark here and what is a landmark and what's a clue and do I use the sound of the water fountain or not? Because sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Those are all things that we can give to you so that way you have just like that background understanding. So in that moment when you are traveling from the classroom to another classroom and you pass the water fountain, you can make the educated decision as to do I prompt using this water fountain or not? Or what part of the water fountain do I use? Because all of that is going to be very different and individualized. What we found in 1993, which is a long time ago, but there's not that much good scientific data since then, is that children with visual impairments and children without visual impairments, their bodies develop in the same manner. Their motor development stays the same. It's parallel until 4 to 6 months of age due to lack of motivation to move. It's not due to vision and it's not due to the body having anything wrong with it. It's due to lack of motivation to move. And I'm not saying that babies don't want to move. I'm saying that we know that there's a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, but they both do the same thing. They strive to maximize reward value and minimize punishment. So oftentimes what we end up doing is we give extrinsic motivation because we are not intrinsic. We're not within them, which makes sense. But what our teachers do is they stand near the door and they do things like tap on the door and say, okay, Sally, come here. Okay, Sally, come this way. And then Sally gets up from her seat and then she follows the sound and she goes to the teacher and it's all good, right? I'm like, oh, good. Sally can get to the door. But in fact, if we just change where we stand and the words that we say, we can take that extrinsic motivation and turn it intrinsic. We can take that prompting and that learned helplessness into confidence and mastery simply by changing our position in the room and changing the words that we say. Again, no extra resources, no extra time, but you do have to have an understanding of what to do and why to do it. Well, here's exactly how I work through this with my teachers. It's very simplified. If you are a TVI or O&M, you're not going to be doing this level, but what you can do is take a screenshot and you can teach your teachers how to do this. First and foremost, you're going to want to stand near your student facing the direction that they are facing. And then give them step-by-step directions, one step at a time. Start with one-step directions. Don't just tell them, go forward, turn left, no, just one thing, then they stop, and then the next thing, and then they stop until they get better. And again, we're looking at education like the long haul, not just everything's going to happen perfectly today. So go ahead and screenshot this if you want to. This is how I teach my teachers to do it. I have them actually draw the route. And then I also teach them what a landmark is, what a clue is, and what they are looking for along each route. Then they're going to write down the verb, the direction, and the landmark. When the student is actually doing this, the landmarks become the bookends, which then this becomes a routine. And if your student's mental capacity can handle it, you could change the words eventually, totally fine. But there's really no need if it's going to be one quick step directions. This allows your student to memorize all of those things. And then maybe instead of it just being go forward, turn right, and stop at the cubbies, then, or go forward, turn right at the end of the desk, and then stop at the cubbies. Or that would be multiple step directions. Sorry. Go, walk, and then forward. I knew my brain was going to mess up somehow. And then stop at the cubbies. I was right. Okay. That's your one-step direction. Then your student can start to mentally map. And if the teacher is used to drawing these routes, then it can be a lot easier for the teacher to simply make a map, a quick map if they're going somewhere new, because they have the framework. As experts, we often think that nobody can do things as well as us. And that actually becomes the problem because we are not role releasing to the level that we should be. There's this saying, you can have control or growth, but you cannot have both. And I find a lot of times our experts, we're not taught how to be leaders. We're taught how to be minions and do our job, but we're not taught how to give away our tasks. And in fact, a lot of times we find a lot of scarcity in that. We can give that up and actually allow our teachers to take on more responsibility. What I find is that the teachers are so happy to. The TAs are so happy to. Look at you guys in this room. You know that being here is going to increase your skills and you're willing to do it. And I think that that's what we need to take into consideration is that all educators really are there to do their very best and want to do their very best. It's just we have to show everybody how. And the way that we show everybody how is through 21st century collaboration, specifically for consistent student growth. I'm going to go through something pretty quickly here. This isn't my, what I'm about to teach was taught to me as well. So when I'm looking at 21st century collaboration, I'm specifically calling it 21st century collaboration because most teachers now have more emotional intelligence and they are not playing games. If you overstep, that teacher will have their boundaries up so fast. But 10 years ago, we didn't know what boundaries were. It was not even a thing. Nobody was in therapy. We didn't have these rules. We didn't have these concepts. But now we have to be able to talk to people in a way that they can listen. And if you want to be able to get through to your teachers, like I know that you do, you have to be able to have the specific frameworks to speak with them in a way that decreases their objections, decenters you, because you, as the person in any relationship, you are not the hero, you are the guide. You're there to help guide whatever conversation and whatever advocacy that you see fit. Well, how can you do that when there's a bunch of different personalities with their own thinking and their own desires? How can you do that in a way that decreases their objections and increases accountability while centering the student first and keeping the relationship between practitioners intact? There are two things that I'm going to have you do. First is to identify what kind of team you are already operating within. This framework was taught in college, but it was solidified for me in one of our O&M symposium presentations with Martina and Hrjovi from Croatia. So you'll see a lot of words that may not even make sense because they're Croatian. And they list out 4 different types of educational teams. And I will tell you that I thought I was on one kind of team, but it turned out I was not. And what I've been able to do is then take my teams to the next level through crucial conversations, which we dive deep into in the program. First is your disciplinary type of team, and that's where nobody on the team works together whatsoever. So what we're looking at is an image with 3 types of fruits in 3 separate bowls. We've got apples, bananas, and oranges, all in their own separate bowls, and they are whole fruits. Then we have our multidisciplinary teams, which is each practitioner teaches their own subject at their own designated time. They come together for the IEP meetings, but very little communication prior. This is where all the little pieces of the fruit are cut up and they're in a bowl, and each of the types of fruits are like in a half circle kind of row, kind of like a platter tray where all the fruits are just laid out. Then we have interdisciplinary teams where practitioners talk about their goals prior to IEP meetings. There's some co-teaching, but not regularly. Then also there's irregular consults between team members, but they're not like teaching together all the time. In this image, you have one bowl and you have all of the fruits still cut up, but they're in like fruit salad where they're mixed together. Then there's a transdisciplinary team, which is consistent co-teaching. You cannot tell the OT from the PT. You cannot tell the speech from the OT. And they are working together so cohesively that if you were to walk into a class at any moment, you would not know what subject that student was in. And this is shown by a juice and a juice cup. They have overlapping subject areas between practitioners and shared IEP goals. So we know that there are different kinds of teams. Some already work together cohesively, others work more in silos, and the most comprehensive work simultaneously to create a whole child approach to learning. But it honestly doesn't matter what kind of team you have, because you can make it work with any kind of team, let me tell you. And it doesn't really matter what they do. It really only matters what you do. So then the question becomes, how can you create more effective communication no matter what the current level of your student's team? And that, I think, boils down to how you talk to people and when you talk to them. What I found as being the person who used to send long emails and like I would try to get like the whole school to be on board with a project, and then I would like have to, nobody would email me back. I would call them, they wouldn't call me back. I would stop by their room and I would get, oh, it's you again. Like literally to my face, they would say that because I had bothered them so much. And I was like, I'm just trying to organize like a school activity here. Like I got put in charge of a school activity. Can you just help me out, please? But they were so annoyed and nobody was doing what I wanted them to do until I actually learned how to have crucial conversations. I learned how to hold people accountable for advocacy, and I learned basically how to sell is really what it came down to. And from there, when I could learn how to take my needs out of it, and that's what I mean by learning how to sell, is I just put the person first. And then I create a win-win situation for us. when I learned the frameworks and the leadership techniques that are required for that, that's where people turned around. And then the next time I ran a project and I changed my wording around to center the other people first and position myself as the guide, not the hero, then I had 60 out of 100 people thank me for making them do more work. And I was like, man, a few years ago, you specifically, you did not like me and it ruined our working relationship. But now, because I learned these techniques that aren't taught to us in school or professional development, I was able to increase my entire school's rapport, which is wild to think about. So here are a few things that you can do in order just to take one step forward into that direction, because of course you would need much more than just me sharing like 10 minutes of this stuff with you. First of all, quick communication over long emails. And then the next one is celebration texts. Send mom a text saying like, oh, Johnny did XYZ. This is so great with a picture. Or go into Canva and make a little brochure and hang it on the wall in a classroom, your office or wherever, so that everybody who has vision, who's working with that student can see, oh, wow, Johnny just moved his cane. Johnny just read the alphabet. Johnny just recited a poem or whatever they are working towards. And then all you have to do is put what the child did and then the steps that other people can take to get them to do that. And it becomes an object prompt for everybody else, and it becomes a celebration for that kid. So that's something that I absolutely love doing. It's super easy, and you can do it in order to increase your relationship and make the relationship with the other practitioners better. The other thing that I really suggest, and this is like not the fun stuff, is that I see a lot of times people hold they're passive aggressive, or they stop teachers in the hallway and then they'll use a student to say like, okay, Sally, show Miss Sharon how you move your cane, or show her how you do XYZ when the student isn't doing that. Now, how does the teacher feel when they are then stopped in the hallway unexpectedly and they have all these other kids now having these behaviors because the kids are watching this interaction? It's not very good. And I think as experts, we don't really take that into consideration. And I think it's much better. In fact, I know it is, because scientifically, from therapists, you need to hold crucial conversations. And there's an entire framework for crucial conversations without students around, but within 24 hours of occurrence. All right, we are about to wrap up, y'all. I can tell that we're going to go just a few minutes over. I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, what's one action that you're going to take towards increasing your students' skills today? And while you write that, because it's going to take a second, also I want to make sure that you're glad that you came to this training today. And Rhonda says she's going to create one route. Good. Run one routine. Perfect. And Rhonda, I would also suggest role releasing that to your teachers. We talked about interpreting vision to inform instruction, using teaching strategies for non-visual learning, and building confidence one step at a time, and using 21st century collaboration for consistent student growth. Once you get those 4 pillars in place, then it's really just about asking yourself those questions to see if you're on track. Oh, we've got some more coming through. We've got establish one routine. Perfect. Ensure that ECC is embedded into the general education classroom. Love it. Where can you find that document about visual impairments? Oh, it's not in the portal, Jen. Diane, will you drop that document here? Develop a schedule routine. I think I might have it. Do I have it? No, I don't. Diane can get it in the chat here. The one for showing up live. If not, I'll make sure it's emailed to you, Jen. Okay, there she goes. Because in every single moment, we have a choice to continue doing what we've always done and get the results that we've always gotten, or to make a new choice and get a new result. Sounds like we've got a lot of calendar routines happening, which is perfect. Yes. Love having the honest conversation topic. Huge fan of setting boundaries, and Cucina supervises TVIs. Perfect. Good. Crucial conversations, man. The absolute best. Okay, let me actually get back on track. So imagine how much faster you can increase your students' academic and daily living skills if you and your team were able to go deeper into the VI foundations that propel your students' growth, and to be able to do so without the expert having to be the one to lead all of these trainings. Because as experts, it's really hard for us to know exactly how to create this curriculum. That's why I created it, because I was struggling as well. And then once I created an entire curriculum and I had my teams go through it, I didn't have to be there. Now, we did teach this program live in the beta program in the fall, but your teachers you won't have to be there live with them. Because imagine how much more confident you and your teachers would feel being able to have conversations, because everybody's working on that same level of knowledge. Your conversations will be able to go so much deeper. And imagine how much less guessing and chat GPTing we would all have to do on Saturday nights if you and your team members had the full framework, coaching, and community to answer all of your individual questions. That's exactly why I created the VI Foundations program, because this is a bridge between what the experts know and what the educators are doing in a way that doesn't overstep what the educators or what the experts want the educators to be doing. What we've done is we've taken the university coursework and we're distilling it down into easy to access and easy to consume modules. This is designed for all educators working with students and visual impairments to skyrocket your students' academic and daily living skills faster than ever before, to confidently lead IEP meetings or just have conversations with a scientific understanding of what the experts know, and to be able to communicate with all members of the team so that way you can be on the same page. Teresa is an orientation and mobility specialist, and she went through the program in the fall with her TAs, which I highly recommend. I think that this should be a team training, but you can take it or your TAs can take it separately. It's totally doable both ways. She said that the program helps to train teaching assistants to better support the unique needs of her students with visual impairments. So the way that this works is we're not starting now. We're going to start in June. There's a summer cohort, okay? We've got asynchronous and synchronous. The asynchronous part is pre-recorded modules dripped weekly. That's starting June 9th. But starting June 5th, we will have a kickoff coaching call. We break this down into 3 separate units, and at the end of each unit, then we have a full week to integrate the information. You guys can have communication between the experts and the educators. We actually have homework for you and prompt questions that you guys can talk about. If it's summer and you're not talking with them, you can save it for the beginning of the school year. So that way it can be like a framework for a beginning of the school year meeting. We've got 3 modules within each unit, and they are all broken down into 10 to 15 minute segments. So it's really easy. If you have 10 minutes one day, you just dive into that one and then you go on and you do the next. The first unit is science-backed foundations. This is where we're going to set the foundation. We're going to go so much deeper into helping you to understand what your student sees and get you to be able to support their academic achievement by designing environments and instruction that include everyone, and to give you an understanding of how to work with your students and what their learning needs to look like. In the second unit, we go into basic movement skills. This is my favorite, of course, because movement is life. We start off with basic O&M, like understanding what are cues, clues, and landmarks, and then we go into basic cane use. Now, as educators, you're not expected to teach cane use, but I want you to understand, like, okay, that I see that's 2-point touch. Oh, I see that's constant contact. Oh, look, their constant contact is not wide enough today. These things that your experts, your TVIs and your O&Ms would want you to know. So that way, in that tiny moment, you can say, oh, Sally, looks like you need to move your cane a little bit more to the left. And then Sally can do it instead of that one time a week that the O&M specialist comes. And how to help your student to navigate through their school. Then the third unit is where we put all this together. We wrap it up with CBI, community-based instruction training, and then we dive into, like, from theory to practice. What does this actually look like? What are proper teaching pedagogies for students with visual impairments? Now that you know all the things, let's put this into an exact formula that you can use in your classrooms. And then we go into an entire module breaking down crucial conversations. How do I have that conversation with my team? I feel really stuck about something, like, how do I bring this up? And it's going to be based upon their different personalities of everybody that's on the team as well. There are 9 modules. Whoop, went through that really fast. There are 9 modules, but you also need an understanding of multiple impairments or complex access needs. And so we're developing a full training for that. On this slide, you see a picture of a computer with like a little boy, but Julia's face is on there because she is going to be helping to lead this conversation. She's also the TVI that's going to be doing module 3 as well. She has that TVI understanding, and I want her to break this down for you because my understanding and my expertise is more O&M. So she and I are pairing together. With that would be $167 usually. We're going to give it to you absolutely for free. Also, a continuing education certificate would, for 10 CEU hours, would typically cost about $250, about $25 a CEU. That is absolutely free as well. And I guarantee it's going to go up to at least 11 with the way that this training is being developed for Beyond the Basics. There's also 12 weeks of coaching calls that you have access to for 6 months. So if you have a question, you and any of your team members can come and ask the question in our coaching call. It will be set up for night and weekend availability based on the cohort's availability. So we keep our cohorts pretty small, and I want to make sure that we can meet at times that actually work and that you're not having to take your lunch or even like reschedule things, even if it's during summer. And then one of the coolest other features that we have that's also absolutely free is access to our society's VIP community. Right now, our Clarity members are the only people who are allowed in there, but we're going to give you 12 weeks access so we actually can learn from one another. It really does take a village, and I think that it's just so fun to be able to like chat with people and not have to go on Facebook and not have to be like sucked into like, I don't know, my like anybody else's family members just use Facebook and social media to post the saddest stuff, and you're like, I'm here to be happy. Stop posting sad stuff. I get sucked into a rabbit hole every time I go into Facebook. And with this app, I can go in, I can check it, I can ask my questions, and then I can be out because it doesn't have that same algorithm that is designed to literally keep you there. With all of that, you guys, this is an incredible opportunity when you are ready to step into that next version of yourself. Class will start June 9th. I know we're pretty busy right now. We know that the great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. So you get to decide, what action do you want to take? So all of this, 12 modules dripped weekly, so it's not difficult, and you can take your time with it. You have 6 months access. For this introductory offer, all it is 3 payments of $55, which is way less than a university course would be, and still less than my Saturday afternoon at Target. With that, if you do want to pay in full, it's only $147 because this is the first time we are running it at this level. We ran a beta last fall and the results were absolutely incredible. I was blown away by how the people showed up and actually did the work and the results that they got. And I want to bring this to the public now so that way we can start to bridge that gap during the summer before we get into the craziness of August. We will have an August opportunity to join, but the price will be much higher. When you guys are ready, you can join us at exceptionaleducators.us/VI foundations, but Diane is going to put the link directly to the checkout page in the chat. So then that way you can also get the yoga bonus as well. I'm going to stay on to answer any questions that you guys have. It has been so amazing to have you guys here. Look at all these things. Yay. Okay, Brandy, thank you so much. You guys have been absolutely amazing.